Good. Okay, gonna start recording. First off, no checkpoint discussion, and it doesn't matter because everybody has been present for the day. So like nobody is absent today. We're in good shape there. Or this week, for that matter. Question that came up was, how come we're talking about the final? It says lighting, and you're right. The next lesson that I'm going to cover is going to be about lighting, and I want to cover with you the overview of what was going to be your final project. So to start, for anybody scared, looking at you, Ashley, we are not going to take a final exam. That's not happening. You will have a final project that you will submit at the end of the quarter, and it's week 8. And the end of the quarter is technically week 12. We don't really count that last week because we don't meet, you don't have any lessons, but your assignment or your final will be due then. So today, what I wanted to do is I wanted to cover what the final is going to be, and then I'll hop into the lesson so that you'll have a better idea of how that lesson will empower and inform how you'll go about your final, because you're going to start your final this week. And I planned it a little early this time because normally I have like a lesson right now, and then the following week I'm like, okay, let's talk simulations and physics, and then we're going to put your final together and you're going to start. Next week is Thanksgiving holiday. If you don't celebrate it, lucky you still, because you get Thursday and Friday off next week. And that kind of means that my lesson plan is a little rough. So what I've done is I've brought it up a little bit so you have more time. You can relax into the holiday, and when you get back, you know exactly what's expected of you, and there's really no more worry about it hitting you kind of like a truck when we get back. So that's why I wanted to do it like this. So no worries. We are still covering lighting today. That's going to be the majority of our lesson, but I just wanted to cover that little bit for you. So let's head on over to the canvas, and I'll turn off our mouse for now. All right. So the final overview. This is just kind of a breakdown of what's coming, and we've got milestones to think about. And I think of the milestones as like weeks. For your final, you're going to do a 15-second sequence of a scene in Unreal. Must be a scene that tells a story. Now, when I say a story, I don't need you to make a 15-second short movie, though you may, but careful, because the scope can get out of hand very quickly. Editing for story gets difficult. When I say that a scene has to tell a story, what I really mean is that the setup that you create has to be a cohesive theme. For example, it may be a bedroom. It may be a kitchen. It may be a mad scientist's lab. You can choose whatever environment you would like it to be. My requirement, though, is that I want it to be an interior scene. I had a question earlier this week. Well, if we have to do interior scenes, how come you showed us all that really cool, like terrain stuff? Well, because you may have an exterior shot in the background, for example, through a window or a glass door. But part of the reason why I want you to do an interior scene is because it's easier for you. 1, it's easier. 2, I want you to be considerate of lighting components of an interior shot and not reliant entirely on the sky dome that is default to Unreal. I also want you to scope and scale down your we'll call it an art pocket for your film, mostly because when you're thinking of an outdoor scene, that scale and scope becomes wild really quickly. You know, well, I'm going to put a mountain range, and we're going to put trees, it's going to be forests and boulders. And before you know it, you're trying to build a world, because it's world building, right? And you only have 4 weeks to do it. 2, really, though, if you think about how you're probably not going to gain momentum for another week and a half at best. Lo-fi hip-hop raccoon is an excellent choice. I've actually considered doing it myself just for fun, because I love that lo-fi raccoon shots. Honestly, if you look at almost all of the chill hop stations on YouTube, I get so pumped for them. Like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do YouTube. Yeah, guys, I'm not embarrassed by this. I have looked up the chill hop essentials on vinyl. Yes, I have done that. I'm not ashamed. Oh, Googling you. YouTube. I know what I'm gonna do. I know how to do things, I promise. chill hop. Go here. Most of these shots, this is one of my favorites. I really like the coffee one too. That's pretty fun. Like I kind of get really excited at these environments. Woohoo, I think that's cool. You could make something like that. Sure. Every time I play these, I get kind of inspired. Final assignment description: lo-fi hip hop room of choice. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at you. I wouldn't be mad. I know I want to do it. It's kind of a fun, I think, idea, and they're always really good, like pulled together little rooms that feel so calming, and I enjoy looking at them, which is, I think, part of the reason why they're being featured whenever we do this. So, you may actually choose a concept that's not your unique original concept, as long as you quote the artist or your source where you got it, so that you are giving credit where credit is due for the illustrator. It's very common in the 3D pipeline that you inherit a concept piece, and it's your job to replicate it in the engine and in the renderer. Really talented illustrators don't necessarily know how to sculpt and 3D model and know all of that technical know-how to recreate those scenes in 3D. So that is an acceptable pipeline here for your final as well. You may use your own concept, but I want to caution here. Pros and cons, right? Pro to using your own concept work: it looks really great on a portfolio. It's really, I think, appreciated, the skill that goes into creating and telling a story, because it's kind of a difficult one, frankly. Con: concept arting is very difficult. And not to say that you can't do it, and if you've got a lot of illustrations that you can pull from, or scenes or shots that you really want to build, and they're in your mind, you may do it. I would like for you to be considerate, though, that I think this final is a good opportunity for you to have at least one cohesive piece for your portfolio. And if you don't consider yourself a very strong concept artist right now, this is either going to be an opportunity for you to practice to get better because you want to be, then do it. Or you just want to do 3D art, and you're not too worried about that. I would not recommend then doing it if that's your focus, because from strong concept comes a strong scene, and therefore from weaker concepts come weaker scenes. The concept is the starting point, right? And if it itself is not pretty strong, neither will your final output be, right? And am I saying that you're a bad artist? I have no idea, because I haven't seen your concepts, but I am projecting because I can tell you that I am a bad concept artist. And so this is coming from a good place, I promise. If you would like some feedback, you may share your concept art piece and about whether or not you think we should do it. I've had students come through that are great illustrators, and it's a great thing to do. But if you're not a practiced sketch artist or illustrator, I might recommend that you steer away from it and instead choose something that really makes your heart sing, right? Okay, all right, that's enough of that. Head back over to the next bits and pieces of this. Minimum of 9 models, including the environment. 3 of them may be reused assets. Now, yes, that means that you got to do some 3D modeling in your future. They must be your own unique stuff. I appreciate that you may not want to do all of them all over again. So if you have a couple of really strong pieces that you would like to work into your shot somehow, then yes, you may reuse them. But where we might have trouble is if you try to only reuse assets to try to save yourself time. Does it tell the story? We're going to kind of have like an ad hoc situation where we've got like a non sequitur scene of I think I'm kind of calling you out, Andre, but like a cell phone and a donut and a building. However, if you did a shot of a cafe that had a donut on a plate next to a cell phone on the plate with a building in the background, now we're kind of coming together with something. So it's not to say that you sometimes using or reusing assets isn't a great constraint to give yourself to build the scene and what you would like it to be. But I don't want you to only be reusing assets, because you should also be practicing your 3D modeling skills and pumping them out throughout the quarter. So most of the environment pieces, or most of the pieces in the scene, should be unique assets. Now, 9 sounds like a lot, but if you really think about it, it's kind of not. From when it comes to having a ceiling, a floor, and a wall, a door. That's already 4 of them. And that's not even the part that necessarily tells the story, though they can and do based off of their design. But very quickly, do just staging the interior shot, fill up that model requirement. It's really actually not that much. Okay. All assets must be completely modeled, lit, staged, and materials, and must include at least one physics-based render material or physics simulation effect. We haven't really covered the simulation effects yet. We're going to be doing that in coming weeks. But rather than give you a piecemeal assignment per next thing we cover, like we've been doing up to this point, I really wanted to give you extra time on your final, so this way we could incorporate that into your final piece. Potential situations where can be used. Physics-based rendering is a physics simulation. You may use a PBR pipeline, recommended Substance Painter or Designer, because they do a really great job creating those materials for that. If you want to do a physical simulation effect, we can either have kind of an explosion effect, just go, in the background of your shot, or maybe right in the shot, if that's what you want to build. But we could also create a particle system that might create a kind of ambiance, like a dust particle or floating bubbles or something like that. So some of these other effects don't necessarily have to be an explosion or a simulation of a kind of like gravity simulation, though that is actually pretty cool too. But the options are available for more interesting storytelling. Whatever you do, though, you'll want to decide what you want the story to be as early as possible. That should be decided before you get started, right? And of course, I said it has to be an interior scene. You may have an outdoor background, like a window or a glass door or something like that. And I will also recommend that while it is an interior shot, you don't have to close off the whole room with 4 walls. You can have a missing 4th wall where it feels more like a TV set, and what you're doing is you're shooting from an interior scene or interior shot. But there is another kind of way to share your work that does not have to be from a first-person perspective. First-person shots are sitting in the scene or in the coffee shop from the table, or maybe you just like looking at the counter or whatever. I don't know why I picked coffee shop, because I mentioned it before, I guess. Where the view is of someone experiencing the space, right? A view of a bedroom as though you were in the bedroom, right? First-person controller. Then there are like diorama style shots where you can build a scene or a bedroom or a building or an interior space, kind of like a diorama, that you can kind of look at the whole piece. I've seen really great and beautiful sort of concept pieces that have that kind of style, that can get kind of inspiring. I think that's probably hypothetically what I would do for a shot like this. If you wanted to, I would pull it back and do the whole room, and you can see the whole room as like a toy. I mean, do you have to do that? No, not really. You can do it any way you want if you want to. Okay. Any questions so far? Doing okay? Assuming it can be longer than 15 seconds. It can. It can. Must just be at least 15 seconds. But yes, it may be longer than 15 seconds if you want. Cool. Cool. Yeah. So what you're going to be turning in eventually at the end of this, when I do unlock that that assignment, you'll be giving me your migrated scene with sequence and everything, and a rendered video. And you're going to post the rendered videos, and everybody gets to see what everybody's made. And let's talk about the final milestone setup. To this week, you really need to be focusing on choosing your concept. You may light your own or design your own, but you definitely decide on it today. We're also going to cover lighting, but next week you need to have the first pass of your assets and theme and staged in Unreal, including a lighting pass. So they don't have to be materialed yet. They don't have to be completely finished, but you will want to start the stage of your shots. And no, you don't have to have the cameras in yet, but you're going to be doing a lot of this setup by next week. So next week, your work in progress is going to be, I want you to send here, share a concept piece and your first blocking pass in Unreal. Just either a rendered PNG or a screenshot of what you have. That's all I'm really asking for next week. But it has to be something, right? You with me still, guys? With me still?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm worried I'm giving you too much information, but I'm sure it's fine. Okay, cool. All right, then we're going to cover post-processing effects and simulations, physics simulations. The physics simulations and post-processing aren't necessarily required, but you may want to use them in your shots, and you should have access to all that information as well. But you'll also want to make sure that you've completed the 3D assets that you plan on putting in your scene. And therefore, like just tackling missing textures, UV unwraps, or any incomplete or missing materials. Now that's going to be your focus of week 10. Week 11, you will share your first pass of your rendered film or rendered video, because we're all going to do critique presentations. It'll be pretty straightforward, where you don't have to like come up to the front or anything. You will give me your renders. We will view them together and we will give each other critique. Some of the things that we should be talking about in week 11 is how quickly the cameras are moving, are the shots confusing or disorienting? Is that what you're going for? And as well as critique on the construction of the models and art themselves. So we're going to be like taking a closer look at all of this together as a group, and everybody's going to share, and we all are going to start commenting on each other's critiques. Fun? Yay! Okay. I appreciate y'all humoring me anyway. All right, so no one's doing a final today. Just wanted to cover the overview of the final. Because that is going to be, it's going to be here in no time. Guys, like, just looking at this. Yeah, oh wow. Okay, so it's the 17th. Then we've got the Thanksgiving holiday for week 9. Then we've got the first week of December for week 10. Week 11 is the last week we meet, and on that's the last day. December 9th is the last day that you can submit any late work, but I don't think anybody has any late work. We might have to do some resubmissions, because I know we've had some troubles with the migration. And I want to make sure that everybody's grade is reflecting on the work they're doing, because I know that some of you are doing really cool stuff, and I don't have access to them. So after the call today, if we have time, because I have a meeting immediately after, I would like to try to see if anybody is struggling with their migration. If not, because today is a bad day for this, but we may be able to make time later this week or connect this time on Monday to get your migrations working. Yeah, I know that some of you are still struggling with that, so I want to make sure I'm getting your grades updated. Okay. Oh my gosh, and then it's the end of the quarter, just like that. Donezo. Wow. Crazy. Okay. So next, we're going to do a lighting demo today. And this is probably not going to take too long, as I will inform you a lot of what you already know. But you don't know that you know it yet. And we're going to kind of start pulling together, I think, how 3D and how we understand things like UVs and how they're effective in lighting, and how to set up some lighting. So I would recommend grabbing the lighting demo here, because it does have some cool stuff in it. This apparently locks on December 1st, because that's the policy of the school for anything I share with you. So please, if I've shared with you something from my OneDrive and you would like it after this, let me know and I'll recreate a link for you so you can grab it again. It's not a requirement for your grade or anything, but I think it's actually really cool for you to have them, because as you can tell, like when you go into some of those demos, they've got really cool things set up for you that you can reverse engineer, deconstruct, or even reuse for your own benefit, which is I think what we're going to do today. So go ahead and grab it, download it if you would like the same stuff that I'm going to be playing with today. When you open it, you'll see something like this. There are some scenes in here, or some maps in here, that if you wanted to, you can go ahead and pull up the maps by doing a little search. Let's see here, classing that particle system. Recent filters. I know that there's a map filter that I'm drawing a blank on finding it. Level, just a level map. There you go. These are all the maps that are in here that you can check out. Each of them has a little bit more content for like a deeper understanding and a deeper look at how lighting works from different functions in different ways. We're going to be focusing mostly on static environments, not moving or movable lighting, mainly because static looks the best, and we're most interested in making our work look as good as possible. Moving lights, moving assets, that's more typical of game design. Now, but I wanted you to have access to it anyway, because let's say that you have that interest and you'd like to continue that interest in the future. That makes perfect sense. So, with that being said, you have access to a lot of these things. The first thing I want to do is I want to share with you the overview. The overview map, which I was so sad I couldn't show this in class on Monday. This is the stuff that made me super sad because it's really cute. Let's let that compile. Within it, it has many different lighting examples set up for us, including how we can change the shape of lights in here. Like these are point lights, right? That are casting a kind of shape. It's really freaking cool. And what you need to do this is called a lighting profile, which is in and of itself kind of a difficult thing to create or come by. I am aware that you are able to make emissive materials, moving emissive materials that can inform how a light can create these like cool caustic effects. There's like an animated here. So this is done with just a moving material, which I was trying to show in class the other day, but I was having computer troubles. Still haven't figured those out, by the way. But for example, creating a quick emissive channel that, moves texture coordinates over time and then just like kind of feeds that into right in here into an emissive color will animate this, which you have enough know-how to be able to create and construct. So we'll go ahead and close that. And then you can create cool lighting effects that do the same thing. This is not something you have to do for your final or anything. I just thought it was cool and I wanted you to see it. But you can also have access to all of these, whoops, daisy, all of these lighting profiles in here. In fact, I would go ahead and make sure that you've definitely grabbed this folder here, zipped it up, and saved it in your library of stuff so that you could use these lighting profiles to build really cool looking scenes and shots and environments within them. They're basically a type of texture profile Unreal asset. It's actually kind of hard to make, so we won't cover how to make it because I am missing steps on it myself. But they offer them for free in Unreal anyway, so you can just have them here. Now, they look like texture maps, but they are technically an Unreal asset, so you apply those to the lighting profiles right in here. Pretty straightforward stuff. Woohoo. See it there. Woohoo. And it can change the whole look of how the lighting caustic just like falls off. I think that's really cool. Doesn't have as many panels as I was expecting. What do you mean? What do you mean panels? Did I miss something? Nodes? Oh, yeah. No, they don't, right? Especially the materials, they definitely don't. Like, this is part of the reason why I really like to share these, going back to the material. Why I like to share these projects with you is because you can take a look at, like, you're looking at that and you're like, oh my gosh, amazing things are happening. Sick, right? And then you, like, take a look at it and you're like, I can do that. That's doable. I even kind of know what that means. Well, you'll probably see some stuff in here that you're like, oh, I didn't know that that there even was a time or a sine wave that I can add to it and have a over time sine wave move through it the texture coordinate, multiply that value into the UVs. Like, you probably aren't quite there yet. Some of you might be, and that's okay, because I think just kind of copying, monkey see, monkey do, just like copying the behavior is good enough for now. Looks simple enough. Control C, Control V. Hell yeah, Honor. That's my favorite right there. Okay, so you know how like it feels like we're kind of cheating if you copy and paste and you take from other things and reapply it and repurpose it? Well, when it comes to writing a report, you're right. That's not good. Don't do that. Or, give credit to whoever wrote those words and put a quotation around it. But when it comes to learning scripting languages and learning how to write code, that's actually the practice for about 1.5 to 2 years for a junior programmer to do. So they will go on Stack Overflow. They will find scripts that are already pre-written that have the solution kind of built within it. They'll copy and paste it into their code and start to repurpose it for their own use, which is totally fine. In fact, recommended while you're learning how to do things like blueprints, because it is in and of itself a scripting language and you're learning how to do it. So by all means, go in here and copy paste this shit, keep it, save it for yourself. Use it in the future. Anyway. Okay. No, I'm not going to do that. No. All right. So let's go ahead. I'm going to make a new level. And we'll do the default level because I like that the sky is already set up in here. If you want to change the sky, there are ways that you can import other skies that others have made, and then you can go into a much deeper dive on how the sky domes work. I want us to focus today, though, just today, on the interior lighting of a scene. And I wanted to have the sky out this time, I think, so that we can see how the exterior light can still inform lighting on the inside. And I wasn't going to do that originally, but I started thinking about how there will be many of you that are going to want to do a window shot. So, why not? We'll just kind of keep it in there as such. So, part of the reason I think I had struggled in class was, one, I had missed a few steps because my original demo had 3D models that I was going to be building from. So if I can come in here, the Cornell box, for example, pull that guy in here. If I were to pull in all of these things for the Cornell box, not you though, and just kind of bring it on in here. Let's remove this guy. What I hadn't accounted for was that the 3D models that are set up in here have UVs already edited, and the resolution of the lighting and the shadows are based off of the UV channels. So each of these meshes have an unwrap on them, and the map that's applied will have a resolution that is already set in that mesh. Have I lost anybody on that, by the way? I realize I just said a lot and assumed that you guys knew what I was talking about. Thank you. Okay. Now, if you haven't taken 216 yet at all, we will be covering unwrapping of objects. Now, if you're in my class now, you know this. You're already aware of it. But let's just say that some folks here haven't taken it, aren't taking it, or could stand to use a refresher, right? So, UVs on a 3D mesh. That's not how you spell that, but that's okay. UV is not really an abbreviation that represents anything. We already used X, Y, and Z. X, Y, and Z refers to the axes in which we are manipulating a 3D asset, right? Like what axis we're rotating it on, what axis we're moving it on, or scaling it for that matter. UV is the two-dimensional representation of that 3D model that creates a map, like literally a location-based grid of the geometry of that mesh so that we may apply 2D information to the mesh. It's a very long-winded explanation of how we basically use a 2D map texture type, usually a PNG. You can build maps in any 2D editor, such as Photoshop, or, you can even do it in Procreate if you really wanted to, as long as you could export the PNG. But there are bigger, more robust programs out there now that are helping us automatically generate 2D texture materials, or texture maps, for materials in things like Unreal and Unity and other places, and other renderers. For example, that would be the Adobe Substance pipeline. They create mostly physics-based rendering maps, which we know, because we covered it in this class, are the metal maps, specular maps, bump maps, roughness, normals, color, and albedo. And the combination of those maps creating a physics-based simulation of what a material would look like. So we're going to come back around to what that means here. These meshes here have, actually, can I go to it? I'm going to go to it. Come here, Suzanne. I'm going to open you up. These meshes have a UV map, right? So Suzanne has an unwrap here. And this box right here in UV space is a one grid. So it's from 0 to 1 on the U axis, which is across, 0 here to 1 over here, and a 0 to 1 map location on the V axis. Now, that might be kind of confusing because we're used to seeing X and Y when we were doing math all those years ago. Well, for me, it was years ago. For you guys, it might have been a few months ago. I don't know. Nobody's going to make you do like algebra or calculus, and nobody's going to make you grid anything. But that's just where it comes from. It just comes from that original math pipeline that basically creates everything we see here. So when I was saying that over here, each of these maps all have a 0 to 1 UV space map for each of these assets that were constructed, so that when we do lighting bakes, which I'm going to show in a second, it is generating a lighting resolution based off of this map. What I had done in class was I forgot about that. And when I make these larger, we're going to have much lesser resolution on, say, like a simple box that's been applied on this map. So I'm gonna supply some oopsie daisy materials. Maybe some materials. Materials. Let me turn on materials here. Okay, this is fine. Basic materials. Already made. Down a little bit so we can take a closer look at it. Sure. All right. I'm also going to put some different color up on here so that we can see how it works. Oh, it's going to compile it. Sure you do. Woof. Anybody ever see that happen in your level? You see that? Does that happen to you? Not yet? Well, good for you, Honor. Good for you. Okay. Does anybody know what that is? Anyone know what that is?
I think it's maybe two materials overlapping.
It's two meshes overlapping, and it's their geometry that's conflicting with the camera.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but that's really good, really smart. So what's happening? Remember that this isn't really a UV, this isn't really a 3D environment, right? It's just a 2D image that is being rendered with math so that it feels like it's a 3D space. Remember that, right? So when we have a camera, like let's say that the sky is like my camera here. How the camera math works, let's say this is a camera, and it's rendering my microphone and this guy and the microphone behind it, right? Like it's rendering these things. What it is doing is it is calculating where these vertices exist on the X, Y, and Z axis, and then of course they're rendering, right? And then it's calculating where it falls in order closest to proximity of the camera. And it will render the things that are closest to it first, and then behind it, and behind it, and behind it. When something exists in the same space as it, let's say my phone and my pop filter here is occupying the same space, it does not know what to render first. So it's trying to render both of them at the same time, and they're fighting. Now, the axis in which it is to the camera, local to the camera, is called the Z axis. You know, X, Y, and Z. That's X, Y, and Z. It comes right at you, right? So that's the angle that's hitting the camera. So in computer graphics land, when this is happening, we call that Z fighting, because the angle of which the camera is looking at it is trying to occupy the same space, and the camera does not know what to do. So all you got to do to fix this, if it's happening to you, is just whoop, give it an order. It just needs an order. Now it knows that this guy is to be rendered in front of this guy, unless it's, the other way around for some reason in order. Okay? All right, cool. Glad we covered that. This is why atoms don't touch the matrix. I can't argue with that. Okay. So basically what I'm doing here, just kind of applying some materials on this so that we can take a look at how color can affect our builds. And I'm going to go ahead and just do a lighting build currently. We don't really have anything going on in the scene other than the skylight. So if I go over here to build, you can either click build all just by clicking build, or you can click build lighting only. I'm going to go ahead and build everything because it's easier for me to remember what I should be clicking. However, when all it is that you need it to build is lighting, it's faster if you just click build lighting. But there's gonna be more stuff that we'll wind up building besides just lighting. So, yeah. Oh no, maps need lighting need to be rebuilt. Oh no. Okay, lighting did not happen. All right. Well, how's about these? I go ahead and do. Oh, never mind. It was just thinking. Did anybody see the change? The change in lighting from the before and the after? See if I can move some stuff around, and we'll do some stuff. Let's move Suzanne. No? Okay. So you may notice now though, after I'd done a lighting build, if I move some stuff, let's move you, the shadow stays there. The shadow exists. It's not a dynamic shadow. That's because it did a bake. It baked the shadows into what will be kind of like a map overlay using a UV channel on all of our assets, which is part of the reason why when we are building 3D models for real-time rendering, we have to make sure that it has a UV unwrap that is not overlapping, because this is where we can actually get into some trouble with our lighting bakes sharing shadow information, right? We might want it to share material information, but we definitely don't want it to share shadow information. Now, there are ways that we can start to construct meshes to have an additional UV channel. I will be covering that in a future talk. For now, don't worry about that too much. I want you to just worry about what is going into your scene, okay? So the resolution of these shadows are directly related to, excuse me, there's a lot going on there. The how good the unwrap has been done, which these are fine, which is part of the reason why it looks as decently nice as it is. But we might want it to be just a little bit better, a little bit nicer. I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna move, I think, the directional lighting source. I know action sphere, don't need that. Atmospheric Bob. It's got a couple of things in here that's kind of nice. You know what I'll do? I think I'm gonna actually build this in a scene without this so that we can take a closer look at point lights. Yes, I am. Let's go into a new scene. Let's go to Nanan. No, don't say that. Come over here. Come here. Actually, I'll kind of make my point. This is why. Now, when I was in class the other day, I completely phased this out. I just made this box like super big. I'm going to, and some of you are going to want to do the same thing, but that's okay. That is perfectly okay. We can definitely do that. I'm just going to show you how. So I'll make this my ceiling. Going to rotate these guys, and now I've got walls. Beautiful walls. And I'm going to rotate this guy. Now, you know what, might notice that like it's not rendering any light right now. It looks like it's unlit. Well, that's actually because well, there are no lights in the scene. And if I were to come over here and make sure it was lit, we would not be able to see anything, like at all. It really does need this kind of unlit shot just for me to have context about where everything is. So if I bring this back over to lit, and I want to add a light to this scene, especially for our interior shots, we're going to want to go over here to lights, and we can start dropping in a few different lighting types. What I really want to show you, though, are these three. We got point lights, spotlights. Oops, excuse me. RUB this way. Okay. Spotlight, and a rect light. Cool. So these three lights particular are going to be the ones that you will likely use the most. I don't anticipate you guys doing a whole lot with sky or directional light. A directional light is what you would assume will act like a sun. It's going to create kind of a forever light based off of its rotation and cast a type of sunlight shadow across everything, which is lovely. It affects everything kind of equally though. So you want to make sure that you use this, like, I think when you figured out where you might want your window to be. We'll just remove that for now. I got everything here that says preview. Oh, preview. Yes, I know. And that's because this is not, it's basically saying this is not really how it's going to look. We're just trying to render a preview of the lighting so that you might actually have a little context to do the editing. So to get rid of that, just do another build. That preview will go away. No problemo. Let's look at it. Thank you. Lights for to be rebuilt. It actually doesn't. You guys are just slow. All right. Oh, that looks nice. Doing the lighting build like this also calculates some bounce light, or at least tries to, and create that kind of simulation. But we might notice over here, we've got like some weirdness occurring a little bit. We got some funky sort of shadows here. It just feels a little, I don't know, splotchy. Splotchy might be the word. When you have, let's see, an asset selected, any actor really that has geometry or is rendering something, it is being considered in the lighting bake. So if you head down to lighting, by default, we have a resolution of 64. And actually, I'm going to move my mug here. We're going to just like move that out of the way. Okay. Right down here, see, it says overridden light map 64. Now, by default, it's 64. That's okay. It's very optimal. It's a very low number, but it's not very pretty. And just to kind of make my point further, I'm going to pull in here a cubey. Little cube dude. What's up, my cube dude? Boop, boop, boop. I'm going to do another bake. Hopefully this won't take too long. Keep it simple. Yes. Think, and then go away. It's still thinking. Ha. Okay. All right. We're like, okay, so there's some shadows there. It might be fine. I don't know. Fine-ish, I guess. Definitely gonna remove this. Do another build. I want to see some darker shadows, so I removed the directional light. Yeah. Oh, what? That looks so bad. Oh, that's better. Hoo-wee. That was scary. Ooh, you can really see the splotchy though, can't you? Like right up here. Okay. All right. Okay, so how do I make this resolution better? How do I make it cooler? Well, like I said, when you've got any asset in here, including your meshes, that is supposed to render, there is also a lighting component on it in the details. So we click override. Now, here's the thing is that I can just show you how to do it and what it does, but I kind of want to show you a little bit in a little bit more detail how it visually works. If you go under lit, which is like how we're viewing the scene here, go to optimization view modes and then light map density. This shows us the density of the light maps that are going to be there through texel density. So like the cube is pretty good. Any shadows rendered on the cube is going to be pretty decent. I'm actually going to make a copy of this just to kind of prove that point a little bit more. And I also think that I'm going to probably turn off some of these other lights so that I can actually see how one light is affecting the other. And I'm gonna do this guy. I think that these guys here, I want to turn off. Now, this is something that you really need to know when you're editing lights, because you want to like kind of edit them almost one at a time when you're playing with them. And hey, is that so true? Now, we might think that what we want to do here, and I'm gonna pop that down. We might just want to shut these off here. But the thing is that if I hit play, they are still rendering in the scene. And so it will happen in your sequence as well. So like, okay, how do I look at a bake of a single light? And I mean, if I can't turn them off here, how? So select the lights that you want to shut off. I don't want to remove them from my scene. I just want to turn them off. Head down to rendering right here. It's usually like right, yeah, it's usually further down. So let's just drop this down here. Rendering. Visible. See that right here? Visible. Off. Turn that off. So now if I hit play, like it's not there anymore. I mean, it's still in my scene, but I've turned it off. So I'm going to do the same thing with the rect light. It's right below light under rendering. Doop. There we go. And now I've only got my spotlight here, and I kind of want to show the shadow casting on all of these things. So let's do a build again. See what that looks like. Oof. We have to build stuff here. We got some like weird residual things. I'm gonna remove all these. I feel like there should be no lighting information in here. Build. No light. Go back to black for me. I think it's cached somewhere. Whoa. Ha! There we go. Let me bring that. Want to cast that spotlight. Unlit. Ooh, I was way off. Dang. It's lit. Yeah, this is kind of what I'm talking about. This is, I want it moody in here. I really want to see those shadows. That's what I'm trying to do. Shh. Do an angle on it. Just put them over here. Ooh, pretty. Okay. Ooh. Now let's do build. Cast that bounce. Really? Still thinking. Oh, it really does bounce that much. Dang. Okay, well. Anyway. The shadow that you'll see here, like, on the box itself is pretty decent resolution. It gets a little worse, though. Blurrier here on the box map here. And also the bounce blotch here is super blotchy. I want that nicer. So when I go to the lit and I go to optimization view modes and I really want to take a look at the light map density, I can increase these guys considerably. Now, don't do this for a whole world. Do it for your scenes, for your beautiful art that you're trying to demonstrate, because this does get kind of expensive. And when you've got a map here not selected, and it's going to change color when you select it, right? You've got a box here selected. You don't want these to fall into the no-no colors. The colors do mean things. So what do you mean by no-no colors? All right, so I've got this box here selected. I'm going to put it in here. If we go down here to lighting, I'm collapsing all of this so you can see it a little bit better, and that way I can have my mug here still. Collision, collision, collision. Lighting. Right here, it says override light map. This is the resolution, right? I'm going to give it like 1024 power of 2. When I pull away, that's a no-no color. See what I mean, no-no color? Now, it doesn't mean that it's illegal, but it's saying you probably don't need it that high, right? So let's do 512 and pull away. Still a little high. I'm going to leave it though, because I kind of want you to see what it looks like. And I'm going to do this one as well, 512. Whew. Now, what this might mean is it might take your renders longer to do, but it's increasing the resolution of that lighting bake. So 1024. Ooh. Pull away. That's not bad. They're like, the green is like, hey, that's good. This density here is though, it does not need to be that high. So let's do 256. All right, that's a better color. Let's do 128. Ooh, it likes 128. All right, cool. All right, so I'll come out of this light map density view mode now. Pretty. It needs another build. So the density on a mesh, when we're talking about resolution density, there's a word for it. You might want to refer to it on occasion as your pixel resolution or your pixel density. It's not that. That is very much not the word to use. The word that you're looking for is called texel density, which is a mashup of the word texture pixel. And it's referring to the density on a mesh. So when you're out there in the real world being a boss 3D modeler and you want to refer to the resolution of a material on a mesh or a UV map of some kind, like a lighting map, you will use the word texel density instead. I think it's still thinking. So don't use pixels. It's not pixels, it's texels. Pixels are what you see on your screen. That's that. And when you're used to working with 2D images, that's a hard rut to kind of get out of. So I understand. Oh, that's better. It's considerably better. Still a little rough here though. Okay. All right. That's okay. we're going to play around with this some more. You guys still with me? Am I still fascinating you with lighting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bless you. All right, good. Just making sure you're still there and awake. What I'm going to show you next is a way to kind of increase some of the quality of this resolution even further. But the thing is that these things get expensive. As you know, lighting gets expensive. So we don't want to tell a whole world, like of the entire map, that there's an importance of information everywhere, right? We want to actually define the area that you want your lighting render to have higher importance, more priority. This shot right here is really important to us. Now, for your final, you can use an importance volume, that's what we're going to use, on the whole area of the map that you build. So like your room, the interior space or room that you're building with, awesome. We'll go ahead and add an importance volume here. So if you go to actors here, we'll put in importance, light mass importance volume. This is what we're doing. Wah, wah. I don't know why I make these noises. I'm so sorry. Now, this, like, it looks like a cube, but it's not rendering a shape other than just like its wireframe. And that's okay because it is technically mesh information. It's just not rendering, you know, the vector, whatever. We don't want it to. We don't care. But we are saying that everything inside of this box should have light importance. So we want to render this higher quality. Now, there really isn't too much more that we have to do past here. The light mass importance volume. Oops, daisy, I made a copy. So if I do a build of it now, let's see what it does. Let's see what it does for us. Yeah, lighting takes time. I may recommend that you play around mostly with the most important lighting in your scenes, and then try doing builds later at the end. I have built scenes where like you hit build lighting and it's gonna be like a day. Granted, my computer is better now, but when you're building whole levels, it can take that long, but not necessarily like meh. Oh, it's Chuchin. It's Chuchin. Ooh-wee. Ooh-wee. Lighting in here looks way more intense, doesn't it? I'm gonna make this bigger. Give me your light mass. Whoop. Whoop. Cover this whole thing. Yeah. Build. Looking dramatic, isn't it? Hey. Usually when you put in a light mass importance volume, you're telling the renderer that everything inside of it is important. Everything on the outside, we don't care. And that's a way for us to try to keep up optimization so that Unreal can do what it's trying to do all the time. And be super beefy, especially with lighting. Ooh, I forgot to put colorful materials on here so we can see some bounce and cool stuff like that. Yeah, let's do it. Those shadows look crisp, don't they? I don't like that bounce there, though. I want more cooler. Ooh, yeah. Okay. Nice. Nice. Better. Still that blotch, though. I don't like that. All right. Let's go ahead and play around now. What I would really like to show you is ways that you could play around with, ooh, shadow mass exponent. Let's pop that up to 4. And we can also play around with, let's say, color. Very rarely is lighting a white color. It's usually has its own kind of color in it. I love warmth in my lighting when I'm going for really natural, like looks. For a decent frame of reference and what type of lighting that you should be starting with, I would recommend looking at landscapes. I know. Like, you're gonna bring this back to like regular art. Yeah, I know. Now, The sun is the most important light source of our species. Fact. Therefore, there is a psychological component to applying a warmth yellow to any light to create a sense of security, calm, or really any kind of just mood that feels very grounded in reality. So your sun should be warm, unless you are going for a very exciting time of day, or possibly an alien planet. Maybe that's your environment, in which case some of these rules kind of flow out the window. But if we had a purple sun or a purple light, sometimes these colors tend to create a sense of like, we'll say, alienness to it. Like, it's part of the reason why when we use colors in lighting that are very unnatural and only typical in like neon lights, it doesn't feel quite so normal. It'll feel man-made, and that's okay. Like a neon light actually makes sense in some cases. And if you're going for a scene that feels very, I don't know, 80s retro cyberpunk Blade Runner, then yeah, you'll want to use a lot of those colors. Deciding a color palette is probably going to be best informed by your final decision on what you would like to do for your concept piece, right? But whenever you're unsure, it's never really a bad idea to just start with like some of the colors that are typical on a sunny day, like a warm light and possibly a cool fill light. Now, something else I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, thank goodness, so we're going at it right now. We've got the 3-point lighting system. 3-point lighting. This is commonly used in portrait lighting or lighting for interview work, or even just placing of an asset or an object that you're like maybe product, like selling a product. And essentially the rule is that we have 3 lights that we focus on. The key light, which is the most important light, and we make that our most powerful and brightest light in the scene. The fill light fills in the shadows, taking away the harsher lines, which you can kind of see here. Takes away the harsher lines, right? Like this is just the key light. Then you got the harsher line fill so that the shadows are still present, but they're not so, I don't know, because she's falling away. It's like going totally black where her hair is. So it like fills in more information. And then the backlight. Usually this is where you can kind of have the most fun with some splash color, but frankly, you could do whatever you wanted. But the idea of the backlight is to create a type of rim lighting effect on the asset or on the person in this case to separate them from the background. So it basically creates this like 3-point system that really separates and stages a product or a person with importance, with great importance. And so when I'm doing my 3-point lighting, right, typically I start off with you can use any kind, but I do like the let's say this like this spotlight. Ooh, I bet you probably are messing around with like rotating it, and you'd really like it to maybe the handle to be local to the asset instead of the world. Remember right here, we can toggle the world gizmo handle to either be local, which is what the little cube means right here, or world-based, which remains like always true to the scene. So if you want to switch that actually can kind of make some sense if you're like, well, I kind of want to toggle it and I want this always to be oriented to the direction it's pointing. That does make some sense. So when I'm doing a key light setup, I pretty much always stick with some neutrals. That very low saturation. And also this is supposed to be my brightest scene, my brightest light in the shot. I'm going to go ahead and play around with a little bit more of the settings in the spotlight. I like the penumbra, which I don't remember what they call it here. I guess they call it radius. Oh, so that's how far it goes. The inner cone. Woo! It's pretty big. Didn't mean for that. The outer cone. Woo-hoo. Whoosh. Okay. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put in a fill light. Now, for me, I think a fill light is probably best with a point light. Pull this over here. According to the anatomy of a 3-point lighting setup, Usually it is about 90 degrees off of the key light, but most importantly, it needs to be considerably less bright. So we'll pop that down to 4, I think, just very light. Here, for a fill light, I am often inspired by the color of the sky. So if the sun is yellow on a sunny day, sky will be blue. So these colors here do often create a kind of mood that feels a lot more grounded and like a bright sunny day, and they complement each other very well. You might be thinking about that while working on maybe a scene that has a window in the background. You might consider a little bit of blue light coming in from the window, or if it's direct sun. Um, Inspiration can kind of come from many places, but I really do enjoy finding inspiration on like exciting times of day. That's really cool, but will look super alien, but maybe that's the vibe you're going for, some kind of abstract. Cloudy days are going to be much less saturated, as the bounce light from everything, it kind of really takes away that cool color of the sky and makes it much grayer. So typically, depending on the color of the clouds, dirty clouds will be more orange and red, browny, dusty. Bluer clouds will feel cleaner. So, and you'll like lose some of the saturation of the sun too. Anyway, it just kind of gets, I don't know, it gets fun to think about. Close that off. Ooh, oh, that's nice. I think this guy can be a little bit less though. Let's pop you down to 10, not 100. 10. And I want you warmer, less bright. There we go. All right. Build. Next, we'll want to think about the rim light. And this is the light that actually will tend to separate the asset from the background a little bit. And for that guy here, I tend to like the rect light for this. I think what's cool about the rect light is that something you should know. The shape that the rect light is using here, this shape right here, that is the shape of the source. Not like, it kind of implies that the source is coming from maybe further back and it's got like a shadow on it, but this is the shape of the source of the light itself. Oh, it's still choosing, no wonder. Okay. So if I were to build you, please let me. Okay. Oh, that's right. I have to do it down here. I forgot. Wait. Width. There we go. You can kind of see how it feels like a source here. Long, but maybe narrower. This is starting to feel like possibly some like overhead fluorescent lighting, right? Yeah. So the shape of the geometry here is the shape of the source. Okay, so that's as if these are a long tube of actual emitting light. Now, part of the reason that I like using rect lights is that you can change so much of the shape of it, and it's like kind of creates a cool, I think, like effect on it. Ooh, we also got some cool shadow stuff happening here. Oh, I like it. I like it. And I'm gonna add a different color to this. Maybe not quite that crazy. Ooh, that's fun. But it too should also be less than the key light. Maybe more so. So, let's do 2. Okay. All right, I'm gonna do a build again. Now, when we're doing lighting and you're starting to put in multiple lighting sources in your scene, there is something that you should know. Unreal will happily calculate up to 4 overlapping lights in a scene. Now, overlapping doesn't mean you can only have 4 lights in your scene. You can have as many as like makes sense to. But what they don't want is you overlapping more than 4. So once this is finished, I will show you what I mean by overlapping light. And it's found some errors. Okay. It's still thinking, so. Boop, boop, boop. Cool, cool, cool. Ooh, 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 that feels nice. Very cool. Okay. Um, right, we were talking about how to show, yeah, optimization modes. Lighting complexity. Remember how I mentioned before that red is a no-no color? It's saying it will do it, but it doesn't want you to do any more than that. If I were to make another one, put it there, we got a big ugly no-no color. There's a whole lot of no-no happening. A little bit of this red is fine. I do enjoy using these visualizations to help me look at and see if we'll say that like lighting importance of an asset can be fine. Like I'm okay with it being in the red with this shot here, but it shouldn't be everywhere, right? Then we kind of have a problem. And so this does help me like visually prioritize compositionally where my shots will happen. So like if I'm going for kind of like a rule of thirds here, I think that's okay. Come back over here to lit. You can see, oh, it's fine. But you do not want to be putting in more than 4 overlapping lights. And you can tell when a light is overlapping when you select it, and you can see that the light that's being filled in any of this, like you can really see it with a spotlight because it basically shows you exactly the direction. And it shows you pretty well the rect light. So yeah, look at that. And the point light. Point light here, these can be scaled down. This will help, but the lighting officially stops affecting stuff at the end of this geometry here. So it will affect the intensity of the light if you scale it up and down, and it will let you rescale the area of which the light affects it, but like it won't let you affect the scale of the rect shape mesh. And that was what was in the rect light. Okay. Now, if I look under optimization, lighting complexity now, that's actually quite a bit better. Got a lot less no-no light happening anymore. Still thinking. Back to lit. Ooh, very pretty. Very, very pretty. All right, are you guys getting excited about your final? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate you humoring me. Thank you. All right. Okay. Very cool. Very, very cool. Now I'll go ahead and show you, I think maybe one more demonstration. And that's to set up the lighting kind of, well, no, that'll be more for later actually. I think that's more important once you've got your meshes in so you can start applying that logic. Never mind. Let's do one more thing where I'll pull up some materials. Woohoo. And we can see how materials will affect the build a little bit. Now, if anything, all it really does, in my opinion, is I think cast a decent little like light or color effect on objects around it. Like the bounce is just very subtle. Unreal has a very powerful lighting system. It starts off like kind of out of the box, much prettier than say Unity, but all of this is also possible in Unity. You just sort of have to build it from the ground up, and you also have to have the visual vocabulary of knowing kind of what's missing and what to look for. So all of these lighting builds will work comfortably with shaders that are, we'll say, respecting and honoring the physics-based rendering pipeline, because the lights are also based on physics rendering. If you are going to use or create your own sort of cell shader or cartoon shader, you may do that, but you will have some troubles with lighting in that own way. Okay. Woo, see? Yeah, we got a red bounce off that wall. That's really cool. Nice. Yay. Oh, did you find some errors? There's no errors. Okay. Now, for your final, let's come back over here. Next week, I'm gonna cover up the overview one more time and kind of what's expected for next week. Because now I think you might have a little bit more context. Um, you'll want to make sure that you have a first completed lighting pass and the assets in your scene. Now, when we were talking about 3-point lighting before, or we're talking about like a key light, fill light, a backlight, there's a concept in design, overall design, called dominant, subdominant, and subordinate. So dominance, subdominant. I'm sure I'm spelling that wrong. Design. Sure. Now, in the abstract design, this kind of creates a sense of balance and of importance. And basically, what you're trying to consider is that objects and things in your scene will also have dominance, subdominance, and subordinate. Now, the dominant is typically the largest feature in any shot, and in lighting, it's the key light. It's the most important light in the shot. But there's also subordinate and subdominant. Subdominant is the fill light. It balances out the key light, and the subordinate simply elevates the other two. And that typically happens with also like the arrangements of things like furniture. This starts to show up. This line of thinking shows up in level design. It shows up in interior design. And it's kind of an abstract thought and difficult to apply in theory. And of course, we're looking at abstract shapes. These are cubes and such. But if you were to look at, let's say, lighting concepts, art, usually we see the same kind of conceptual thing occurring with lighting as well. You have the dominant light, subdominant fill, subordinates, and it too is pulling a dominance to the central feature right here. So remember that like 3-point perspective or 3-point lighting rule of the key light being the brightest and the other two being ways like less dominant than the other two, because trying to apply extra dominance on your whole scene will make none of it feel important, right? It's like using an exclamation point at the end of every sentence. It doesn't really hold its power anymore. Yes? So while constructing your scenes, when you're looking at concept art, I would actually recommend trying to find a really good, really well-defined lit concept. This is actually really good. I kind of like that a lot. Where the artist was very considerate in how they rendered their lighting. These are really noisy though, meaning there's a lot going on. There's a lot of assets here. You don't need to build something quite this robust and full. In fact, maybe scale it down. Perhaps you like something of a shot here where you would pick a corner of it rather than the whole room. And that's okay too. It can be inspired from something as well. We have a little less than an hour left in class. I wanted to allow everyone an opportunity and a chance to start going down the conceptual art rabbit hole and allow yourself a chance to like find some stuff. Remember, I want an interior shot. You may have a window in it, but it should be an interior. ArtStation is great. You may do your own, but I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you're very comfortable doing illustrations. And if you're unsure, you could always ask me if you need a little bit more guidance on like, should you do this? Is this like good for your skill level, or maybe even how to? If you find something you really want to do and you're unsure about how to start tackling it, you can also ask me about that too. This week's I don't remember if I can, but I intended to do a study hall this Friday, since we don't have a full week next week. Yes. This week, I'm going to do a study hall from noon to 3, in which case I will actually be, I think, covering some modular construction. I was actually thinking about maybe building one of those chill hop scenes just to kind of go with it and see like where we would start. So if you're interested in joining me there, you can come over to the DMA Student Association on Friday in the live demo or study hall, the study hall voice chat at noon. And I'm going to make an announcement in the DMA Discord as well. Okay, so unless anybody has any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and let y'all go early.
I actually have a question.
Okay.
Next week is Thanksgiving,
Yes.
but we're still joining on Wednesday, correct?
Wednesday, yes. Yes, we are. However, it will be very short. It will not be very long. Mainly because wait, no, we're good. We're good. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of my other class. We have a full week next week, but I am not giving you additional work really to do because of the holiday. I actually want you to be able to enjoy that time off. But yes, we will be meeting on Wednesday. Sorry.
Okay, and the actual final date where we do that little presentation and critique, that's on the 8th?
That's week 11. So we're in
Okay.
week, that would be the 8th. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Yeah, great question. Yes. Right. Anybody else? I have a question about the previous assignment. Okay. Do you, about your previous assignment specifically?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll do that
So
when we're not recording. Or do you want to talk about it on the recording?
no, it's fine either way.
Okay. All right. Well, then, everybody, class dismissed. Honor or anybody else who has some questions about their homework, came back.